Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name's Barbie Robinson. I'm from Art Sound FM, and it's my pleasure this evening to be your host. Could I please ask you, first of all, if you have a mobile phone, could you turn it off? Not just for the phone calls, but also no photography from phones or any other camera. We are very privileged tonight to be here for the launch of Marcela Fiorillo's new CD, the Piazzolla. Behind me, the beautiful banner, Piazzolla Tango. But we're in for a huge treat today, not just Marcela presenting the Piazzolla music, but the poetry of Geoff Page and two very fine tango dancers, Fabian and Karina Conca. Could I please invite first for an official opening to the stage His Excellency Pedro Villagra Delgado, the Ambassador of the Argentine Republic.
Good evening to all. Well, first of all, I have to say that I was a bit worried with the lights here because I need to read a few pages in big font, so don't worry. It is for me a privilege as Ambassador of Argentina to be here tonight in this concert and presentation of a new album by Marcela Fiorillo. She's a great cultural ambassador for my country in Australia and indeed in the many parts of the world where she has taken her art and our music. Tonight, we gather on the occasion of an homage to Astor Piazzolla, the Argentine composer who not only revolutionized tango, our iconic music, and in the process opened the way for its full potential to be realized, going well beyond of the already very important, lush and sensual feast for the ears by listening to it, for the eyes by seeing it danced, and by the feet and body by actually dancing it. Piazzolla linked it with jazz and classical music, where it just took a whole new dimension, which we are going to see and to listen today. I'm immensely proud whenever public classical radio here in Australia plays music by Piazzolla, which is quite often, by the way. And I have overcome the feeling of homesickness that this will happen because I realized that Piazzolla has become a sort of universal music, albeit being very Argentine too. And this is precisely the kind of intertwine of cultures that I like. And what more can a music and a musician expect than having its music becoming universal? Marcela, who has an extraordinary repertoire of Argentine classical musicians, many of the very well-known, such as Ginastera, Guastavino, Williams, or Garcia Morillo, has also rescued many of the less known from oblivion, which, by the way, is the first name of the CD that is being presented today, and has also published an album on the music, which is a delight. I have had the pleasure to listen to the album which is presented tonight, and I strongly recommend it. It will transport you to Buenos Aires, to the soul of the city, through works magnificently arranged for piano, which by her virtuosity on the instrument provides an uplifting experience. Besides, the album contains pieces from Piazzolla's Maria de Buenos Aires, the small opera who he wrote and that Marcela and Jorge Bagnini brought to Canberra audiences a few years back. This masterpiece includes poetry, and as part of today's event, a great Australian poet, Geoff Page, will recite his Ode For Astor, inspired in Piazzolla. This symbolizes better than anything else the power of tango and of Piazzolla for bringing together Argentina and Australia through music, literature, and the arts. Karina and Fabian Conca, great Argentine and already also Australian dancers, will display the magic of tango dance with skill, flair, elegance, and feeling. Seeing them dance, as I have had the privilege on several occasions, is the best explanation you can get on why tango exerts the attraction it does, as if a gravitational force will bring together the dancing couples to this vortex of music and passion. Having with us the great Argentine contemporary composer, teacher, and musician Gerardo Dirie, sitting just next to me, who today heads the music studies at the Queensland Conservation in Brisbane, sort of rounds up this evening in a very special treat. We had the privilege of having the Griffin Ensemble play one of his pieces in Canberra for our National Day a few years back with his presence. To conclude, I will just say that Argentina and Australia are privileged to can both call Marcela Fiorillo one of their own. Piazzolla must be delighted by listening to her playing his music, and I'm sure that if he could come to us here tonight, he will be consecrating Marcela as one of his music high priestesses. I proudly officially open this concert and album launch, sure that this recording will be one of those to treasure forever, and which will become a collector's piece to enjoy for decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. As His Excellency said, the CD will be available at the end of this concert in the foyer, and Marcela will be pleased to sign your copies for you. Could I welcome to the stage, please, Dr. Gerardo Dirie, who will introduce all of the music in this concert.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone. His Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, distinguished members of the audience, welcome to this extraordinary occasion for our ears and our spirit. I also have a large amount of pages, all big fonts, but I will not read all this at once. It is with great pleasure that I took Professor Fiorillo's invitation to introduce the works in tonight's program as a composer and also as an Argentinian musician. The first time that I've heard Marcela's recording of Piazzolla's anniversary CD, I felt fortunate to be in the absolute learning end of the experience. Again, the performances of each tango clearly were not simply arrangements, but redimensioning of Piazzolla's work. While in most existing arrangements of these tangos, one learns to use the listening as a way of remembering the original. But in this recording, one hears the music of Piazzolla embodied or owned in the concert piano, and the concert piano played only as Marcela does it. Every turn of phrase was a surprise for me. Every time I tried to predict a slowing down or a pushing forward of the tempo, I failed. Marcela escaped every time, holding the full line in its own logic, integral shape, and expression. For those who are in music performance, you will know that this is an achievement that we encounter only in a handful of occasions. So I will let Marcela mesmerize us, and I will only refer to the compositions as singular projects of Astor Piazzolla. So shortly, first a couple of comments about Milonga del Ángel and La Muerte del Ángel, or Milonga of the Angel and the Death of the Angel. Milonga del Angel appeared in 1965 along with the Diablo, or the Devil set of pieces, in the album Piazzolla at the Philharmonic Hall in New York. The CD was recorded, the long play was recorded in Buenos Aires, nonetheless. This was the first time he had recorded an entire album with only his own compositions. The angel theme, for various reasons, was present for about 10 years in Piazzolla's production, from Tango del Angel, 1957, followed by The Death of the Angel, 1962, an incidental work for theater, actually. And then in 1965, Milonga del Angel and the Resurrection of the Angel. The Milonga of the Angel induced us into an immediate introspective mood of a slow habanera milonga pattern, pulsing, and a slow staggered moaning from guitar and violin, originally that we will hear here on the piano. A remarkable feature that Piazzolla included in this composition is the use of several modulations. Now, if you allow me, those who are not musicians will love to hear my explanation of modulation. Always a complex thing in music theory. But if you have a TV at home and accidentally you were playing with your color control, suddenly everything is magenta or yellow. Still you see everyone there on the screen you can recognize, but everything is of a different color. And if you are exposed to a different color for a while, you will be exhilarated, happy, or depressed, depending. But that's the aim of modulation, and composers do it intentionally. They are pushing our buttons, and they are driving us into a dramatic journey. The Milonga del Ángel's journey is one of sorrow and also of endurance and assertiveness. It's a triumph after suffering. La Muerte del Ángel, or The Death of the Angel of a few years later, is a thrilling composition. Here Piazzolla shows us his mastery of the use of riffs. These are particular type of melodic motifs. They work less as a motif in Beethoven or Brahms or Mozart, and they are closer to a motif in Led Zeppelin or Deep Purple or Pink Floyd. We are thrown into a fourth-part fugue introduction. It's a very imitative texture, leading to a groove-based motivic repetition, leading with these repetitive motifs into a lyrical section in a major key. Then there's a return back to the intense melody and whip effect. The fugue technique, so it doesn't matter if we don't understand fugue, but I bet that everyone will feel fugue. A fugue is an imitative, it's like a canon, it's an imitative texture. One voice comes in and another voice follows saying the same at a different pitch level. But why composers write fugue? The fugue technique is a very effective in prompting the audience to a feeling of inevitability. We are led to a chain of predictions and confirmations of expectations that seem unstoppable and becomes frantic as we seem not to be able to change it. I invite you so to consider that the fugue theme is not made only of pitches in Piazzolla, but also of noises. And these are part of a violent scene. The actions are unfolding almost in front of our eyes, as Borges will describe it, a scene of a brawl with its blurring glitter of knives at night. Violence, build-up, and stabbings. next comments regard Buenos Aires Hora Cero, Buenos Aires 0 Hour. This piece was first recorded in 1963 and published years later, in 1972, in an album titled Popular Contemporary Music of the City of Buenos Aires. This is the time when Piazzolla was trying to find a correct name for what he was doing. And he recorded this piece in his nonette lineup. Here, Piazzolla resorts to forms that were not typical in the tango repertoire, namely strophic forms or alternations of verses and chorus, and a fast ornamental final section. Buenos Aires 0 Hour relies on a bit mysterious, almost sinister repetition, nocturnal, with the occasional disturbing noises of the urban night. Buenos Aires Hora Cero is like an experimental nocturnal soundscape over a repetitive walking bass, something that Piazzolla borrowed between traditional jazz and traditional tango as well. From this walking bass, a rough tango phrasing emerges over the syncopated bass line of the 3-3-2 pulsation. In this innovative and hypnotic piece, we are presented with alternations of cautious walking and a more dynamic passage with abrupt shifts in the melodic design and occasional strange harmonic changes. With its unfolding lines of a relentless accompaniment, this composition could remind us of Silvestre Revuelta's Sensemaya, Chant to Kill a Snake. It shares its character of incantation, perhaps more as an urban ritual in this case. Piazzolla also is anticipating the use of devices later heard in progressive rock. One can think of the riff in Buenos Aires Hora Cero as the money motif in Pink Floyd or Iron Butterflies in Agada da Vida, except that these two bands were recording types of those riffs in the late 60s and mid-70s, not in the early 1960s as Piazzolla did. On the other hand, from the classical repertoire, some connections could be established with Mussorgsky's Beadle or the Ox Cart from Pictures at an Exhibition, with its repeated bass note accompaniment to a chant-like melody in the tuba. But better yet, the comparison is more proper with Stravinsky's Spring Rounds from The Rite of Spring, with its 4-note walking bass and block melodies in the winds. Anyway, whatever might have influenced this piece, we can be more certain at the sensory level about the effect of darkness, mystery, and about his evocation of a place that is presented as exotic, maybe more accurate for our experiencing of this enigmatic tango. Follow this Buenos Aires Hora Cero, we'll hear Otoño Porteño, or Autumn of Buenos Aires, which is the second of the Seasons series. As you may have already heard, he didn't intend to write 4 seasons. One piece came first and connected, and later on, he proved that it was a good idea to keep adding that to a series. Otoño Porteño opens again with a sinister recurrent pattern, leading to a clearing out progression of more familiar harmonies. A similar effect that we hear in the music of Brahms, when darker configurations of melodic phrases and rhythmic tensions are then partially alleviated by a moment that gives way to a satisfying and familiar harmonic plan. The novelty, thus, of form that Piazzolla offers us is, in this and in the other works of the Season series, bear much in common with the Baroque concerto, with its alternation of fast and slow movements. In Otoño Porteño, we hear the alternation of sections that are progressive, with fast walking bass and short harmonic rhythm, with sections of melodic solos or repetitive bouncing notes falling down that sounds like someone is weeping. The final section brings back the energy of short driving melodic motifs and percussive effects. Thank you.
Buenos Aires, hora cero. Is it all of Buenos Aires, its Bandonian stretch of suburbs, or just this single bar? Three tangueros, one small stage, and half a dozen dancers. A man still nurses one last whiskey and stares into the smoke. The night is at its midpoint now, the day at its beginning. How does one go on from here? He feels he's nearly sawn in half, though not with too much pain, or no more than the music brings. The first strain of the dance begins. 3 notes in a steady strut. The violin rides its way across them, sighing for a past once shared, though tinged with dissonance. The counter-theme is some way off, storing up its hope. The flavour of the way things were and might be yet again. My music's for the ear, said Astor, as much as for the feet. The drinker's feet once moved with hers, synchronised with knees that now are spreading for another man, or out late still and dancing elsewhere. The 0 hour is made from nothing. These intervals, its definition. The night will offer nothing more. Horaceros, here again, his shadows at the door.
I was sitting here thinking, I'm so pleased Dr. Dirie is here to give you a commentary on the music. The music fills me up so much I can hardly breathe, let alone say anything sensible. Anyway, to some dancing. We have the wonderful dancing of Karina and Fabian Conca. They'll be presenting Siete Palabras, a tango, and Taquito Militar, a milonga.
very fortunate to have in the same program a piece by Mariano Mores as well as Piazzolla. At the time when Piazzolla was very busy transforming the sound of tango by bringing sounds from other genres like classical music, jazz, and rock, there were other musicians that were developing the tango from within its own root, and Mariano Mores was one of those, is one of those masters. The piece that will conclude the first part of the program is titled Paráfrasis sobre Adiós Nonino, or Paraphrases about Goodbye Nonino. There's no tango paraphrases of Adiós Nonino. This is something that Marcela wrote on an existing piece. And there is an association of pieces written on other works from Nonino. Paraphrasis, just to get things clear, is a rewording or reworking of something already said or written, usually for the purpose of expanding its meaning or clarity of concept. In the world of music, however, the term is used to designate the work that uses existing compositions or melodies, especially for the purpose of displaying virtuosity. There's a tango called Nonino of 1955. In this tango of Piazzolla, he already wrote there the main features that we hear in Adiós Nonino, namely the distinctive ascending motif that sounds like a question, the contrasting two sections as fast and energetic and slow and lyrical, with its distinctive long, short, short, long, insistent motif. This tango, Nonino, is in B minor, and the coda takes a sudden shift to E minor. Later on, Piazzolla paraphrases that earlier tango with Adiós Nonino as a deep and personal reaction to the news of his father's death. The new reworking of the earlier tango is set a tritone lower. This is puzzling already. It means that the music originally written in one key now starts in an uncomfortable interval down. Usually in music history we call that particular interval the devil interval. And featuring also the fast, slow alternation of movements, reusing the melodies from the 1955 composition. The only important harmonic shift in the slow section scored in the relative major A flat, with its distinctive descending bass line pattern, again evoking Baroque music formulas. But repetition and paraphrasis, with all its technicalities, are not gratuitous here, as they make a perfect poetic and biological sense in an homage that a son gives to his departed father. In the 1962 edition of Editorial Corn includes the lyrics written by Eladia Blasquez to this tango, and allegedly Eladia showed the lyrics to Astor, and Astor was crying a little bit, approving of her work. Although the text is an eulogy, it is also a celebration of the Piazzolla senior as a courageous Italian immigrant through lines such as this. And today, my old Nonino is a plant. He is the light, the wind, and the river. Now this stream that is me replaces him, prolonging through my being his challenges. I continue him in his blood, his own echo. This voice that once was sounded like a hole when I said my goodbye, goodbye, Nonino, a chain of repetitions and echoes in the sun.